This is the Whole Care Network. Helping you tell your story one podcast at a time. Content presented in the following podcast is for information purposes only. Views and opinions expressed in this podcast are solely those of the host and guest and may not represent the views and opinions of the Whole Care Network. Always consult with your physician for any medical advice, and always consult with your attorney for any legal advice. And thank you for listening to the Whole Care Network.
Hello and welcome to Daughterhood, the podcast. I am your host, Roseanne Corcoran, Daughterhood Circle Leader and Primary Caregiver. Daughterhood is the creation of Ann Tumlinson, who has worked on the front lines in the healthcare field for many years and has seen the multitude of challenges caregivers face. Daughterhood is what happens when we put our lives on hold to take care of our parents. We recognize this care is too much for one person to handle alone. We want to help you see your efforts are not only good enough, they are actually heroic. Our podcast goal is to bring you some insight into navigating the healthcare system, provide resources for you as a caregiver as well as for you as a person, and help you know that you don't have to endure this on your own. Join me in Daughterhood. My guest today is Susanne White, the Caregiver Warrior, an author, advocate, Daughterhood Circle Leader, and veteran family caregiver who turned her personal journey into a mission to support others. After caring for her parents through illness and dementia, she emerged with powerful lessons in compassion, resilience, and self-care. Her new book, Self-Care for Caregivers, is a guide for anyone navigating the emotional roller coaster of caregiving. In this conversation, we explore the difference between guilt and shame. We talk about the weight caregivers carry, the second-guessing, the family dynamics, the difference between accountability and responsibility, even the quiet grief that shows up along the way. Most of all, we share ways to ease that burden and how to remind ourselves that being human is more than enough. I hope you enjoy our conversation. Susanne, how do you define the difference between guilt and shame?
Good question, because I think we feel the same about them. I think when we say, I call it misplaced guilt and shame, and I think we bundle them together, and they're two completely different things. Guilt, to me, in my personal opinion, is when we feel bad about doing something or not doing something or feeling something, feeling maybe resentment or anger. That's guilt to me. Shame is when there is a mistake, we think we are the mistake. Or if something bad happens because of something we did or didn't do, we're bad.
Okay.
We're bad caregivers. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So neither of these two things are our buddies or our friends, but whereas guilt is sort of a more natural in life sort of river we float down, shame is a really dangerous tsunami that can come at us because a mistake or something bad happens. That means that we are the mistake or we're bad.
When do you think that switch happens in our minds? When it switches from I made a mistake to I am the mistake?
Sadly, I think quite often and quickly. I think this is the whole conversation about guilt and shame and their position in the landscape of caregiving. Mm-hmm. We go there really quickly and we almost come into our caregiving journey already experiencing misplaced guilt and shame, whether from our childhoods, from trauma, from life in general, from society, from bullying, whatever it is. We quite often, we have to work on our self-worth and our self-esteem. And, we're not like setting ourselves up to do that first and then go into caregiving.
Right. We didn't have time to do that.
No. And this can kind of be the gift, which I don't always think about it this way, but, caregiving for me personally was the best thing I ever did. Taking care of my mom and dad, my first caregiving journey was the best thing I ever did because it helped me heal my relationship with my mom because we did not get along. And she was tough and I'm tough. So I admit that, but it made me look at myself and my behavior and my feelings. I had to, because she wasn't going to change. I had to. So I had to sort of like really become self-aware and say, what am I feeling? And why do I feel bad about that?
Tell me a little bit about that, because especially with caregiving, it doesn't matter the disease, the condition, it doesn't matter. What is happening is happening. And our responses are that it's what keeps us locked in that. So how do we work on our responses to these things then?
Well, it's interesting. I did a social media post today about that. We didn't fail. We adapted. And so that's a mindset. And behind that mindset is that if we plan something or we come to our caregiving experience with the great intention and wanting to be perfect and do it perfectly, we set ourselves up. It's a breeding ground for feeling bad about ourselves because we're not perfect. We're human, and we're going to make mistakes, and bad things are going to happen. Yes, no matter what the caregiving journey is, because the nuances are different, the little details are different, but the bottom line of it is we are walking someone home, period. Whatever is going on with them. And it's how we try to do that, how we try to walk them home. And the worry about us not keeping them safe or sound or having feelings about it. So the first step is we have to acknowledge this. We have to be on the lookout. We have to be self-aware.
It's so interesting because, as primary caregivers, we're in charge. It's our responsibility. So it's hard to then look at it and say, well, I was responsible for that. And then, but yes, I'm human and I can kind of let that go. It's
Right.
a very hard balance to try to keep that going.
Right. It's close to impossible to keep that going. That's why I'm saying we constantly have to have grace and be aware and take our emotional temperature on this.
Mm-hmm.
On top of making sure, and this is another part of it, I am so much more of a better caregiver when I have eaten well, or I've have a good night's sleep,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe I run around the block or screamed in the car, or do all those things that make me feel better, or even when I'm aware of saying to myself, wow, this is not good, you're a pressure cooker. So yes, I mean, it's very difficult because we're walking in a minefield. It's one of the reasons that I call caregivers warriors, okay? Because we're very similar. It's a very similar persona. We're out to protect, serve, and care for those that we love, right?
Yeah.
On a daily basis. And it's a battlefield. I mean, we're not, it's not a walk in the park.
Mm-mm.
Anything can happen. And we're constantly waiting for the next shoe to drop and the crisis to be averted. And there's all this stuff. So we're already in dangerous territory. We're in a minefield.
Yeah.
Okay. So the better we're prepared to be in the minefield when we set off an explosion, the kinder we are to ourselves physically, emotionally, and spiritually. And the more we believe in ourselves and trust ourselves and believe that maybe whatever the higher power or whatever, I think the more equipped we are to deal with that explosion and not take it on.
Right. And, part of that I really believe is the expectations we set for ourselves also. I know you're a big believer in, limiting your expectations. Can you talk to me about that?
Yeah. Lower your expectations. I mean, period. Of everybody and everything, really. You can plan, but you can't predict, right? So, I mean, yeah, let's lower our expectations, especially of ourselves. And I mean, I'm making a joke about it, but I mean, there's a great saying that expectations are premeditated resentments.
Oh,
isn't that nice? Well, there it is.
Whoa.
So I mean, and I think it's there's guilt that gets involved when we have expectations of those we care for too, whether it's under expecting or over expecting, and then we feel guilty because it's so I mean, if we could just kind of pull back on the expectations and say, look, this is what it's going to be today, and it's like there's so many things like day at a time, stay present, stay in today. And you want to smack people when they say that to you.
Right.
But, if I tell myself, okay, it's today, can't change the past and let go of tomorrow. And it's just like right now, like
Right.
it could all change on a dime. So, and I think again, we're so hard on ourselves, and it takes a lot of energy to be hard on yourself. Like it's not just that we do it. It's like, I can't concentrate, if I'm worried I can't concentrate on what's going on or be present with someone. My mind's in a completely different place. My heart's in a completely different, I'm worried. I'm looking around. Who's looking at me? Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
and then all this life flies by.
Yeah. You miss it.
Miss it.
Yep. It's so funny that we're so quick to say, I did this wrong, when we have these difficult decisions that we have to make all the time. Like I used to say, can't I just pick, did I want to wear the red socks or the blue socks today? Like, can't I just have a ground ball here? But we're constantly in these awful decision-making situations. And then we go into Monday morning quarterback. Well, I should have done it this way. And if I would have done this, then that would have happened. And that doesn't help us either.
No.
So how do we not do that? How do we get ourselves out of that Monday morning quarterbacking?
Well, I think having this conversation helps in that we got to keep it top of mind, because we're going to do that. And it doesn't do, and I'm not saying not to learn from mistakes, but mistakes, you can think about making a mistake and ruminate about how you could have done it differently and stay in the problem, right?
Mm-hmm.
We can stay in the problem of that mistake, or we can try to pull ourselves out into the solution, which is, where did there was a piece missing in that puzzle. I didn't see it. What the heck was it? Oh, maybe I could have done that differently. And then get off it. It's almost like you have to yell at yourself, like, let it go. And another phrase too, which is, let go and let God. Like, there was a reason for that. Let me try to learn from it and move on. And this is, I don't usually do this, but I'm very much into women's soccer. I love soccer, and I love our girls' soccer teams, right? Okay, and there's a player that I love, and I hope she doesn't mind me quoting her, but her name is Kristen Press, and she's great. And she had a lot of injuries, and she was talking about her self-thinking. And when she gets on the field, and if she misses a kick, or she misses a goal, or she misses a pass, she said she has to say to herself, instead of, oh my God, where's the ball? Where's the ball? Where's the ball? Where's the ball? In other words, let's get out of the problem of, oh my God, I screwed that up, and put the attention on where's the ball.
Right.
And I love that. And I heard her say that during my caregiving journey. And I thought, wow, I got to keep my eyes on the ball. Right.
Yeah.
And it's a trick. It's a mental, there's a judge and jury in our heads, whether it's from a childhood experience or a relationship or whatever coping mechanism we have. Judge, and jury is in the head. Shut them up. Listen to what we're saying to her. I would never say the things to you or a good friend of mine that I say to myself.
Never.
Never. Would never come out of my mouth. So we got to be really mindful of where we're taking our energy and what we're saying to ourselves.
Yep, I fully agree. And you're right. Just shut up.
Shut up. Put a, red stop sign. Do you know what I mean? And you can feel it. You can feel it. I mean, I had to really train myself. I mean, I was so unconsciously, and still to this day, I'm not perfect in any way, shape, or form. It's progress, not perfection, and it's a process and whatever. It's a project. But I had to really train myself, because I would feel myself physically, like be upset with myself. Like I had to learn that stomach in my throat, or like, in the back of your mind, when it's like something's bothering you,
yeah,
you kind of can't figure out what it is, and everything's going okay, and you're in the emergency room and it seems to be going all right, but something's and I had to start to identify that as me going, you're screwing this up. You can't do this.
Right.
This is beyond you. You don't know what you're doing. Remember that last time you missed that symptom. It's like, wow, why do I feel so bad about myself? That's identifying, like, what is it? I feel guilty.
And when you're in those moments, you forget about the options that you have because you're in that moment and you're so consumed by it. And all of our emotions kind of hijack our logical brains.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we bring ourselves back to that? Is it simply just stop? Just thanks for the input, but I don't need you here.
Exactly.
Okay.
I heard recently where you name your brain. So, and you talk to it and you say, and this is very funny, but my brain's name is Junior because that's what my dad used to call us girls. Okay, Junior. And I'm like, Junior, hey, thanks so much. But, this isn't helping me right now. Like, why are you saying that stuff to me? And you're lying to me. There's no truth to that statement. Question your thoughts. Like, is that true? Is that serving me? Hey, like, this isn't helping me. Like, I need to clear my mind and take a deep breath and, let steam off or go walk. I think moving, getting out a lot.
Mm-hmm.
All those things that work for you, you have to just like pile it on. But you got to be aware of it to say then, oh, okay,
Yeah,
whatever it is, and I believe me, as I wrote a book, and it's 140 of those. So, like sometimes, I had to do like 123 of them before I was like, oh, okay, I can get through the front door now. Do you know what I mean?
yeah.
And that's another thing, like the analogy of getting through the front door.
Yes.
And you have to go take care of them, or the door of the bedroom, or the door of the hospital, or
right. You have to talk to yourself.
yeah.
And what would you say?
I say the serenity prayer.
Do you?
Oh yeah, that's that sweet little prayer. Oh my God, God grant me the serenity, or higher power grant me the serenity, or grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. It's just such a profound little prayer, because that's all we can do.
Yes. Our responsibility weighs so heavy on us that we lose sight of that. We lose sight of that. And then we get whatever family dynamics come into play, and it gets mixed in with your own guilt and shame. And then we deal with the fear of what others are thinking or judging our care. I mean, being judged for your caregiving or the way that you caregive or whatever. How do you deal with that?
That should be in the Constitution. Judging someone else's caregiving journey is against the law and punishable by prison sentence of no less than 15 years.
Yep.
Yeah, that should be in the Constitution. So, and by the way, shame, another really great thing about shame is shame, SHAME. So should have already mastered everything.
Oh, what in the world? Should have already
mastered everything. That there's shame in a nutshell.
Oh, Susanne.
It's all our fault. We should have it all under control. We should know everything. We should be brilliant, and here's the irony, which I'm really clear on this today. Here's the irony about that. It's like, if we knew everything, like, we would have no reason to live. Like, life is about learning and curiosity and possibility, not about, oh my God, I have to be, and I get it. I grew up, one of the reasons my mom, we didn't get along, is she was really hard on me. She was really critical because she was afraid for me. So she wanted me to be, so I had to be perfect and I had to do everything right. And, so I mean, like, making a mistake to me can be literally, and forgive me if I'm triggering anybody, it can be traumatic for me. Like, a small mistake can have a big trauma attached to it for me. It's really hard for me. Mm-hmm. And I have to question that. And that's my old baggage. I have to say, you're not here to know everything. Nobody knows everything. You're going to go into territory that you don't know, and you're going to trip.
Yeah.
You get up and you look around and go, well, that's a nice tree. So, and that's the thing about, it's really, life is really about learning new things and seeing new things and opening up our worlds. And in the context of caring for somebody, we don't know all the answers. All we got to do is stand next to them. Like, that, we don't have to fix anything. But, that's a very dangerous piece we take into caregiving.
Right.
I'm not saying like, because you don't have to talk to that 27th nurse about that 47th thing that's not in the file, and that medication that didn't, transfer when we went to the third floor to the fourth floor. You know what I mean? And oh my God, like, why isn't he on his blood thinner? I'm not saying that there's not things that we don't have to coordinate and manage, but I'm saying that it's not our fault that that nurse was exhausted and missed it. That's not my fault, but I'm there to catch it. And most of the times I catch it. Who taught us to catch that stuff? There is no caregiver, like, here's every scenario in caregiving that you can read and pass a test. Like, who knew that I had to make sure in the hospital with professionals, God bless them, exhausted professionals, screw the meds up. It's not my job. But ding, intuition goes off. This is kind of weird. He's acting weird. What do you have him on? And then I learn, right?
Yes. And all of those things, it's so much easier for us to say, I did that wrong, than say, gosh, I did a good job.
Yes.
I really, I handled everything. I was juggling razor blades and I did it.
Yes, yes. Oh, I love that. I'm juggling razor blades. Wow. That's a blog. I'm juggling razor blades. And I'm going to take you up on that. I'm going to use that.
Okay.
It's really interesting. And why do we do that? Well, part of it's in our DNA. Another thing that I was watching was that there's scientific knowledge that, we respond to angry voices and angry faces, which is why we're in such turmoil now in our system. But even babies, they'll respond more powerfully to an angry face. Like, they'll have a more, in other words, they're almost drawn to that more. And that's because back in our little baby lizard brain, back in the day when we were in the caves, an angry face was danger and would kill us. So we still have that in us. So that negative, angry, okay, oh my God, it's the oh my God in us. I think that makes us hold on to the negative stuff and not see the good stuff. And listen, it is good to hold on to things we've learned that are scary and frightening, because then maybe it won't happen to us again. I get that, but we're built to kind of look at the negative and not see the positive.
Right.
So, that's a habit. You've got to develop that habit, like once a day, maybe, like before, like I have to like really force myself to say at night, what'd you do good today? Like, what'd you pull off? I pulled off at least one thing, at least, usually.
Yes.
Or tell somebody else, like tell you, like, hey, Roseanne, I did these 5 things, and you're going to go, holy crap.
Exactly. It's part of the self-talk, right? I mean, it always amazes me, because I think how often do we look in the mirror and look at ourselves in the eyes and say, you're doing a great job.
Yeah.
Right? Never. Never. It's like, I forgot to do this. I didn't do that. And it's important because we have to give ourselves something, at the very least, something.
It is part of the positive talking, and surrounding yourself with people who will give you that feedback if you can't do it for yourself. That was, and asking for help around that. And that's another thing I always have a hard time with, was asking for help. Mm-hmm. But, I've been blessed in that, I've worked really hard attracting people, or surrounding myself with warm and fuzzy people who I can turn to, who are more than happy to say, hey, I see you. Oh my gosh, you're doing amazing stuff. Like, unprompted now. They're like, because I put it out there. Anytime you want to give me flowers,
knock yourself out. Yeah.
Knock yourself out. Like, I'm learning to take a compliment.
Right.
It's another thing. I'm learning to take a compliment. So give it to me. Like, I need to hear it. Like, you think I don't? Because see, this is another thing that we do. Our type A kind of, caregiver, it's like, I'm fine, I'm good. No, don't tell me. No, thank you. Oh, it's okay. Oh, like,
yep.
Like we have, it's this thing that we have to appear to be completely in control all the time and perfect. And it's not true. I'm a mess. I am a hot mess 96% of the time. In here, at least.
Right. In our minds, yes. How do you separate the guilt from the responsibility?
Yes, yes, yes. Well, and there's just and just to and this is a big glacier that we have to kind of dig into. But the top of it is, we can be we need to be accountable
Mm-hmm.
and not necessarily responsible. I
Okay.
think that's a really fine line there.
Tell me the difference.
So, okay, so well, I mean, I think we march into caregiving and take it all on, all of us as a caregivers. And I think slowly but surely we learn to unravel a little bit of that. And again, we don't control everything. We're not responsible for a bad day or a bad diagnosis or a bad symptom or a catastrophe or a crisis or the wrong healthcare people or maybe making a decision that was right at the moment and didn't work out to be the right decision down the road, whatever. We don't control any of that stuff. All we can do is show up for it and do the best we can. Okay, assuming that on a daily basis, we're not really responsible for life on life's terms.
Right.
Right? I mean,
yep.
Who said my mom was going to get dementia and my dad would have to have open heart surgery? I mean, and they would hide both. You know what I mean? So I wasn't responsible for that. I chose to be accountable not only to them and to the caregiving responsibility, but accountable for stuff that maybe I'm not getting right. And, maybe I did lose my temper and my voice and whatever. And, I'm not really, I'm accountable, but I'm not responsible for everything. And I think that's a really fine decision. And I think that continually reminding ourselves or having people around us that remind ourselves or hanging out with other caregivers, there's nothing like another caregiver. And constantly reminding ourselves that no matter what happens, we're doing the best we can. So if something doesn't go right, something doesn't go right. It's not a reflection on us as individuals. And maybe we weren't our best selves. Okay. Welcome to the crowd.
Right.
I mean, I'm telling you, it's, mistakes don't make us. I mean, they do if we learn from them, but they don't define us. And I think you really need to separate this low self-esteem and the judgment and the criticism that we put on ourselves in the shame, should have already mastered everything. Like that's the shame part, The guilt part is, my mom hates being the child and me, the adult. Like I feel guilty about the role reversal. I didn't cause it, but I feel bad about it. Do you know what I mean? Okay.
I do.
But I didn't cause it, but I feel upset and angry about it. So things like that.
Yeah.
I mean, there's reasons, when I had to sign the do not resuscitate for my mom, I wept. I mean, I was inconsolable for about 20 minutes. I signed it, but I felt like, oh my God, she wanted me to do that. I knew that. I knew her. Didn't make it any easier or less powerful, and I felt guilty about it. So, I mean, these are the responsibilities we face as caregivers. And the landscape is filled with guilt. We feel bad about stuff. But there's a time and a place, and we have to understand that it's normal to have these feelings, but get out of the problem of them. It's not our fault. We didn't fail. We adapt. It's not our fault. It's not our fault. It's not our fault.
I 1,000% agree with you. And this feeds right into, I had read something that said we confuse grief with guilt.
Boom.
And it did the same to me. It struck me. Can you see that? Do you believe that?
I do believe that. Oh, absolutely. I think grief is a very strange companion. I always say that. It's a very strange companion. It can creep up on you. It has many disguises.
Yep.
And I think it can disguise itself as guilt.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and it's multi-leveled. I mean, I think we feel guilty about feeling grief. I think we feel guilty about the grief that we grieve. I mean, there's so much. Yes. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. I think it's intertwined. Absolutely.
And like you said, you feel guilt about signing a DNR. You feel guilt about talking about that. And it really is. It's the grief of, I'm sorry you're in this position.
Yes.
I feel bad. I can't help you. Like it's all of that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the helplessness, and I think sometimes a little bit, of hopelessness
Yeah.
that creeps in with that. But yeah, the help. Yeah, I think that there's an innate guilt, and this is very interesting because I never really thought about it this way, which is why I love talking to you. So I think there's a built-in guilt that we can't that this has happened and we can't stop it.
Yes.
You know what I mean? I mean, it's out, and I think we can't stop the blood flow. We can't, there's not a tourniquet. There's not, it's hemorrhaging and we can't stop it. And I think, of course, we feel guilty. We feel we feel grief. We worry about not being able to stop it before we're even there. And I think that we feel really guilty that we can't stop it. And I think that gets back to the part of, it's not our fault. We're not responsible for that. And we're not bad people if we can't do the impossible.
Right.
It's impossible.
Yeah. And I think also in the same vein, we can't do anything about it. So I'd rather feel guilty about it
Yeah.
than admit that it's grief.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes. Yes. Then admit that, yes. And this is yet another layer of it. Brilliant. Yes. So rather than admit that we can't do anything and facing that reality, rather than facing the reality that let's feel guilty about it so that we feel bad about it. So we try harder so that
so that we're not looking at
rather
the
than,
grief.
and the reality.
Yes.
And the reality is we're walking them home 9, 10 times out of 10. And in situations that are more chronic, there's that thought there anyway.
Yes.
If they're children of ours or partners or, I mean, it's really, but this is the intensity. This is how heavy this guilt and shame and grief conversation is, because the reality is we're in a seemingly no-win situation.
Right.
With no resolution and a reality that may be very painful for all involved. However, I think what we can do is we can set our minds in a place where that could be possible, but why not do everything I can to be open and willing, to be open to the magic of life and the wonder and the possibility and the precious time I have with them, right?
Yes, fully agree.
I mean, I had one memory. I have a memory, and I write about it, that I was my parent. I'm smiling because I just taking care of them together was just like it was like razor blades, like just it's just crazy.
Yeah.
So I was cleaning the bathroom, which was like it was always anyway, and it was off their bedroom, and they were both in bed together, sleeping. They were napping, and my dad had a habit of putting his foot out, like in the sheet in the covers, so his foot was hanging out, and they were all kind of cuddled together and everything. And I came like flying out of the bathroom, with the thing and I was like, Mrs. Like, and I saw I saw them. And it was like somebody like smacked me. And I was like, oh my God, take a picture of this in your mind right now, because you're not going to have this forever.
Right.
Like you change the sheets, it's a fresh, clean bed. They're fed, they're warm, they're together, they're not in pain, they're sleeping. Hello. And this is not, this is not going to be forever. You're not going to be here. So, and I had the best day with them. I mean, they woke up and we had the best day because it was like gratitude, like hit me. Do you know what I mean? And
I do. Yes.
And I have that memory. I can see that in my mind right now because I took a picture of it with my mind.
Right.
So the sadness and the grief and the guilt and I hate this job, all that was there. But I was able, by some miracle, somebody smacked me on the head from upstairs, I guess, and said, "Hey, check this out, because this is why you do this," and you pulled it off, even if it was for 2 hours. And how do you feel about that? And I felt really good about that.
It's like take the win, celebrate the little wins that you get along the way.
Yeah. And guilt can't live in the wins.
No, it cannot.
It can't live in the light. Can't shine a light on it. Shame and guilt can't shine a light on it, and it can't live in the wins. And I love that. Guilt can't live in the wins, but if you don't if you don't write them down, if you don't ask somebody to, talk to somebody about it, action partners are really great. Like I have an action partner that I have in the morning.
What does that mean?
I text someone at 6 o'clock in the morning or whenever I get up, doesn't matter. And I list a couple things I'm going to do during the day. And she'll come back to me and she'll go, oh, great actions for today. Good luck. And here's mine.
Oh,
And then on Fridays, we list everything we did during the week.
that's very interesting.
It's really nice. It's really nice. And we've been doing it for years, like probably a decade. I mean, it's just, and I do it every single day so that it's just something can't go on my day and it's amazing. And it's like little kind of creative things like that where we can get feedback or give feedback. We give it to each other. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anything like any ritual or habit or pat on the back or hug or, anything that we can do to be, to kind to ourselves.
Huh. And it could be, some days it could be, I'm going to, I don't even know because I wouldn't even know where to start with this. Have a cup of coffee.
Yeah. Yeah. Put my finger up my nose and sit in the, yeah. Yeah, no, it's not like, okay, I'm going to write the Declaration of Independence.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, like, and you want to do that, but that's not what it's about. It's what do you really like, like 3 little things you think you can actually do that are going to move ahead. And one of them could be meditate, or one of them could get out in some fresh air, or one of it could be take my emotional temperature at 3 o'clock, set the alarm to do that.
That's fantastic. That's great. I love that because it's a little, you always hear about like a gratitude journal, and I get it. And I think that's wonderful. And the things that you're grateful for, I think it keeps you grounded. I think it keeps you present, but that's really good. I've never heard of that, Susanne.
And you should see what our weeks look like on Friday.
I'm sure.
Like, it's amazing.
Yeah. And it gives you a sense of, I did do something this week. I did something. It was productive for me. And I think that's the part that gets lost because we still matter in this. We still are part of this. Yes. And while we're caregiving and we're putting all of our energy there, we still have to put some into our lives. And I know it's hard, but we still have to put some into ourselves.
Yes, absolutely. Because you can't, look, it's like a soldier doesn't go into battle without being physically fit and hopefully fed and box breathing, 4-4-4-4 breathing, and what to do in times of crisis and stress. And, you can't fight the fight without being ready for it. You can't run a marathon.
Right, without training for it. And
without training.
Yeah, absolutely. And all of these caregiving journey ends. They all end. They all come to a close. What happens to the guilt and the shame after the caregiving journey ends, especially if it's unresolved and the person's no longer here? Mixed
in with grief.
Yes.
Yeah, which is like a big soup, big toxic soup that's just going to consume us. And
yeah, it's a really bad jambalaya.
It is really. I mean, I just had somebody yesterday talk to me about feeling guilty about not wanting to cry, couldn't cry since her husband died in January, couldn't cry and cried that day and was so happy, and she couldn't do it. Like guilty about the fact that because that was right. But I said that's your way of working with your grief. Don't feel guilty about it. And again, we have to be aware, we have to really be aware and hopefully take the opportunity, because the caregiving chatter slows, stops. When the caregiving chatter stops, there's this like deafening silence almost, you know what I mean? Like in your heart, your soul, and whatever. And I think that you got to be careful because that vacuum will fill in with a lot of stuff, which is what you're talking about.
Yep.
And I think, we have to give ourselves permission, and we have to remind ourselves and each other that we have permission to do whatever we need to do to get through our big feelings. And if there's a lot of guilt, do not sit on it. Get into a bereavement group, or perhaps talk to a professional or a therapist, whatever floats your boat spiritually. Do that for yourself. Sleep for 14 days if you need to. Just make sure you eat and drink. Do you know what I mean? Like, we have to really be kind to ourselves. So it's now the time to heal. And that's a whole other thing. But I think isolation is a very, because it's hard because you don't, especially if you lose somebody, you really don't want to lay that on anybody else. So go lay it on other people of like minds.
Right.
I think bereavement groups are amazing.
Life-saving.
Lifesaving. And it's no big deal, and you don't have to do anything.
No.
My parents died within 7 weeks of each other. So I was like hit with like a sledgehammer. So, and I knew I was off. I was just like, "Whoa." And I sat, and I can still, again, see the room I sat in. I was in like a big wing chair, and the sun was coming in. It was summer, we had like 6 people, and we were just talking about the people we loved with this kind, gentle woman who ran it, and just, gave us beautiful stones to hold on to. And I mean, it wasn't rocket science. It was just somebody understood where I was, and it shines a light on it, and it can't live in the light.
Yes. And it's hard enough because we're so grief adverse as a country that you feel so isolated and you feel so alone, and you don't know about what all these feelings that you're feeling are. And then talk about Monday morning quarterback. It's a lifetime of quarterback of going back and looking at, well, if 3 months ago, maybe I could have done this. And instead of, I did do the best I could. And when all those things were happening, I wasn't in control of that.
Right. It's not our fault. I carried, be a decade. I felt bad about neither of my parents died in their home. And I promised them they would both die in that home. Right. And neither of them did. They both died in rehab because they had physical ailments that just were not feasible to be taken care of at home. Okay. And I carried grief about that, and I knew, and I talked about it, and I kind of chipped away at that grief and guilt. The guilt, I'm so guilty about it. And I kind of chipped at it. It's not, sometimes guilt doesn't go away. Anyway, and I was literally walking down the street one day and recently, and bam, I was like, you feel guilty about that, but you up until like 12 weeks of their lives, you kept them in their home together. Week after week, after month, after year, they were dying in their home. And you had to put them in, but it was for like less than like 3 months. Like, what do you mean they didn't die at home? They died in a safe place. And like home is not necessarily the 4 walls you make the promise about.
Right.
Home is, they were safe, they were cared for, they were not in pain, they weren't frightened most of the time. And something kind of lifted for me. And I think it's because I've been chipping away at that. I've been fighting that guilt. And finally it's like the pieces all kind of went into a puzzle. And it's the truth.
It is the truth. It's absolutely the truth. Because if we could control everything, nobody would be sick.
Yes.
But it's like you can only do with what you can do.
Yeah, and it's life on life's terms. And I mean, it's how we meet that. Do we do it in a sober, loving, kind, open way? Or do we fight it and hold on to it and bring our baggage into the room? And it's the saying is like, everything I let go of has claw marks on it. I mean, it's like how do we meet life on life's terms? And I work really hard at trying to meet it by reminding myself that it's life on life's terms, and I'm doing the best, and at least I'm meeting it. Showing up is like, there's so many people that don't show up. We have family members, we have siblings, we have parents, they can't, right? That's how I look at it. They can't show up, they give you 50 million different ways and reasons why, and they act out and whatever, but they can't do it. Here we are, we're doing it, and we're giving ourselves a hard time.
And we're beating ourselves up for it. Yeah, I know. It's just, I mean, how do you move from that rumination. And like you said, you chipped away and you chipped away and you chipped away with it at it. How do you do that? Because it's not I'm not gonna feel guilty and then it's gone. Like you do have to chip away.
No.
So how do you turn that rumination into a resolution?
Oh, I love that. Rumination into resolution. Wow. Write that down. That's good.
Okay.
I'm going to be really honest with you. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. And because I don't know, like, why did I have the revelation or why did I get that feeling when I was thinking about my grocery list? Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
So there's a mystery and a wonder around it. I don't know. I do know that I actively pursued it.
That's it.
Right?
Yes.
That I was accountable for it. I wasn't responsible for it, but I was accountable for letting it live in my soul. And I knew that. And it's taken years for me to learn that I deserve not to have that live in my soul. That I'm, like the universe doesn't want me to suffer. Like and that's my belief system. I don't believe we're put here to suffer. I think we're given all kinds of stuff. We got to learn lessons and there's a plan, but you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I took the responsibility of saying, I don't want to feel like this anymore. What is it? And, I've got a great therapist. I've got good friends. I speak up.
Yeah.
I talk about it a lot. I'm a big communicator to the point, as you can tell. I love to hear myself talk, and it serves me well in a lot. Sometimes they feel like, stop, shut up. But that's helped me.
Yeah.
Because, if you get it out of your heart and onto your lips, I think it takes some of the pressure out and you pursue that. You pursue a life of being kind to yourself. And it ain't easy.
No, it's not. And it's, there's also that fear that if you let go of that guilt, are you letting go of your person or dishonoring the experience? So how do you allow yourself to do that? To say it's okay.
Yes.
They're two separate things, and they are two separate things. So how do you do that?
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, just you talking about that, throwing that message out, that someone can hear and say, wow, what do you mean if I let go of the guilt and I'm letting go of my loved one, or I don't love my loved one good enough? Like, I mean, that's a big concept. It's the truth. It's truth. It's absolute truth to power. It's truth.
Yeah.
But that's a thing. I'm supposed to feel guilty. I'm supposed to take it on. I'm supposed to feel bad about this. Because if I screw up, I'm, oh my God, I mean, yeah. And it means I don't love them or I don't honor them. We've gotten this really bad mixed message from society and lots of us from our parents and, generational thing that's passed down from generations that didn't talk and didn't express themselves and, had to suffer through unimaginable things. And that was their defense mechanism. But it's not ours. If you don't feel guilty about something, it doesn't mean that you don't love someone. If you don't, do you know what I mean?
I do know what you mean. Yes.
And letting, we don't, when we love somebody, we don't let go of them, no matter what we do.
Never.
We just have to show up and be there. But that's a really interesting thing. If I don't have these big feelings, and we all have big feelings, and there's fear and anxiety and anger and resent. I mean, there's a lot of big feelings. If I work on them, if I honor them and I try to work through them, it means I don't care about anybody else. It's not true.
Mm-mm.
It just sweetens the pot of our love. Like if we're not so consumed by all this crap in our head, we have more space for somebody else. I have people in my life that just don't have time for me. And it took me a really long time to understand that. They love me. I'm part of their lives. I mean, oh my God, if anything ever happened to me, but they don't have the time and space for me because they've got stuff going on they're not working on, not resolving, right?
Yeah.
Because they're so wrapped up and worrying about themselves and their guilt and their shame, and they're so caught up in their shame and resentment, they don't have space for people that are standing there waiting in the wings to go, I love you. You're fantastic. Be with me. I'm offering you something. They can't hear it. I don't want to be the person that can't hear it.
Oh, that's a great point.
I mean, that's why we're caregivers, for Pete's sake. We care about other people. There are people that care about other people. We want people to feel safe. And I mean, that's the basic thing that happens of going, I mean, there's other complex reasons, and we have stuff, and there's reluctant caregivers or whatever, but I believe there's that kernel in there of kindness that wants to make sure everybody's okay. And that's the nature of a caregiver.
I agree.
So I want to be the person that has the time and space. And, which is why that my caregiving of my mom I went in the mirror.
Yeah. Yeah. What is something that you would want somebody to carry away from this, of the importance of dealing with guilt and shame in their lives, in their caregiving journey, in their regular part of their lives? What would you want to say to them?
That they probably aren't as guilty and as shameful as I am. That for some reason people look to us as caregiver advocates that have been through journeys, and that we have it all together and it looks good, and we have these, I blog and I write and I do all this social media stuff. Mm-hmm. And I'm not being dishonest. It's stuff that I've learned and stuff that I want to share and whatever. However, that guilt and shame walk through the door with us in caregiving. They're pals. So we can either get along with them by acknowledging them, everything wants to be acknowledged, by acknowledging them and doing everything we possibly can to get what we can get from them and get rid of it. Shine a light on it, understanding that we don't have to be perfect, so we shouldn't have to already mastered everything. It just, shame's a lie. It's impossible. And that guilt's going to come. And there's times when you're just really going to second guess yourself, and you're going to really beat yourself up. And please get a support system around you. Talk to somebody else. Shine a light on your guilt. It's okay. Don't feel guilty about feeling guilty. Don't compound the guilt. And know that it's something you're going to carry around until you put it down. And it's not going to happen overnight, but just be aware. Like, why do you feel bad? Do you feel bad about yourself? And that's the red flag. If you're starting to feel bad about yourself, check in with somebody, including yourself.
A big thank you to Susanne White for being my guest today. For more information about Susanne, her book, Self-Care for Caregivers, her blog, and to contact her, visit her website, caregiverwarrior.com. I hope you enjoyed our podcast today. Head over to daughterhood.org and click on the podcast section for show notes, including the full transcript and links to any resources and information from today's episode. You can find, subscribe, and review us on Apple Podcasts or anywhere you listen to your podcasts. You can also connect with us on Facebook and Instagram at Daughterhood. There you can discover our various circles and subscribe to our newsletter for updates. Feel free to message me on any of these sites and let me know what issues you may be facing and would like to hear more about. Or even if you just want to say hi, I'd love to hear from you. Also, a very special thank you to Susan Rowe for our theme music, the instrumental version of her beautiful song, Mama's Eyes, from her album, Lessons in Love. I hope you found what you were looking for today. Information, inspiration, or even just a little company. This is Roseanne Corcoran. I hope you'll join me next time in Daughterhood.